Commando, a combatant or operative of an elite light infantry or special operations force using dedicated operation techniques. But that's not what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to be talking about the film Commando. Not underrated, but overlooked for what it really is.
Released in October of 1985, a few months after Rambo First Blood Part 2, which dominated the box office more. To summarise the plot, because I won't be talking about that too much, retired Special Forces Colonel John Matrix lives a quiet life when unknown mercenaries storm his home and kidnap his daughter. Among them is a member of Matrix's former unit. He's blackmailed into making a political assassination. Matrix at first complies, but after managing to escape undetected from the plane he was on, Matrix must save his daughter before the plane lands and the bad guys realise that he's escaped.
While Terminator made Schwarzenegger the leading man, to me it was Commando that made him the badass he's known for years afterwards. We're talking muscles, one-liners, explosive action. This is pretty much where it started, and my goodness does this start off with a bang. Whether it's through the quantity of these traits, quality, or both, Commando still holds up as one of the most action-packed films of Arnold's career, and perhaps of that decade. So let's have a look at what Commando offers.
Let's start with muscles. When you have muscles like Arnold and they have special close-ups just for them, use them. Matrix just loves showing off. From lifting logs, cars, ripping out car seats, pipes, to literally grabbing someone by the balls.
I can't believe this macho bullshit.
Some of the sound effects here portray a lot of strength. When I recently rewatched this film, I looked at that scene and said, damn, that must have hurt. In a sympathetic way.
These guys eat too much red meat.
Want to get a guy out of a phone booth? Just rip the entire booth out, because after all, opening doors is for pussies. Do anything but that. There's literally nothing Matrix can't push. Let's move on to memorable lines.
I'll be back.
Despite this being the second film after Terminator, there are many memorable lines, more than the average action film. Now, most action films will have the iconic quote or two, but Commando's one-liners are so frequent that it's just funny. Now, most people will know the more popular I lied and Green Berets for breakfast dialogue, but I'm going to show you some other classics.
What'd you do with Sully?
I let him go. Let off some steam, Bennett.
And I think
Excuse me. Don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired.
I think you get the idea. It may sound absolutely silly from a retrospective look, but hey, at least it's more creative than earlier action films.
One of my friends sits this one out. She's just dead.
Now on to action. It's no action film without a gunfight. Before the big fight, where does Matrix get his weapons from? A surplus store. Now perhaps I don't know anything about surplus stores, but I'm surprised certain things are sold to the public, like claymores and a goddamn rocket launcher. Anyone can apparently learn how to use these.
Where did you learn how to do that?
I read the instructions.
But let's have a look at this fight. I'm sure it's nothing special, right?
Wrong.
Casually hip-firing his M60 in the middle of the open, and doesn't get shot once. People say stormtroopers suck. These guys are so bad, they deserve that long shot of their deaths. You know the ones I'm talking about. Shots that are focused slightly too long on one person's death, which interrupts the action, especially ones that are falling because they just happen to be by a ledge. Now there's a lot of guards here, but that wasn't originally intended, but a change during production after the release of Rambo First Blood Part 2. The director apparently saw a sneak peek and said, "We've got to have a bigger dick than Rambo. We've got to slay more people." While that is definitely evident in the shootout, is the result ridiculous or awesome? You decide. Even in melee combat, he's absolutely mental. I have a theory that this film alone was the reason why Modern Warfare 2 had a perk called Commando, but never made it into Modern Warfare 3 because it was just too much power for the individual. But there's one scene that's so badass that you wouldn't get away with it in these times. Not because it's offensive, it's, well, I'll show you. So we see Matrix plant 2 claymores down by some buildings. He gets spotted and decides to detonate the claymores. I mean, that's what I assume he's doing, he didn't bring any C4 with him. Now, with my only experience with claymores being through video games, what are you expecting here? Some damage to a wall? Maybe the claymores are powerful enough to break down a wall? Well, the answer was none of the above. You can't take that seriously! That explosion was so outrageous it turned the soldiers into mannequins. Some of them straight up disappear. What was even inside those buildings? When did he ever go inside those buildings? What's so explosive in the tower? This was 85, long before Michael Bay showed up. Not even he could do that. Finally, to finish it all off, it's replayed about 9 times. There's a slight pause in the middle where you think it might be over,
but I'm not done yet!
As Gene Siskel sarcastically said in his review of this film, wow, look at all that splintered wood.
Look, I know a lot of people say, oh, they don't make them like they used to, but sometimes it's for the best. Don't get me wrong, the film is great, but it's flat out ridiculous at times. Anything like this released nowadays would just be referred to as an 80s Black Dynamite. But in terms of Arnie's career, this is where a lot of trends started, which become very present later on.
Sure glad we took care of Sub-Zero.
Yeah, he was a real pain in the neck.
I think the production team were well aware of how outrageous this was going to be. But believe it or not, even the 80s had its limits. In fact, Arnold shared a story of how he tried to contribute to the action, and failed.
He recounts, as soon as I carried a 1,000-pound log with one arm, I knew it was funny. But let me share the scenes you didn't see that I tried to get in. I wanted to cut off a guy's arm and kill him with it. This wasn't in the script. He would throw a knife at me, and after he missed, while his arm was still extended, I'd chop it off at the shoulder with a machete and beat him to death with it. Needless to say, I was asked by the head of the studio, Larry Gordon, to come to his office, and he said, "What the fuck is the matter with you? Do you want to make money with this movie, or make an X-rated movie?" Because NC-17 didn't exist at this point. If you don't know what that means, go watch my other video about the R rating. IMDb Trivia gave further details about this, stating that Matrix was supposed to say, "Need a hand?"
The director Mark L. Lester called it the quintessential 80s action film and the granddaddy of the genre, and I just don't think he's wrong in saying that. Most conventions or cliches of 80s action films possibly originated here, or at least popularized, an influential film of its time. If 80s is cheese to you, then Commando is the Époire du Bourgogne. You can't get more 80s than Commando in my opinion. It's action above and beyond. And with that being said, I'm out of here. Actually, there's one more thing. No witnesses.
If it's a mission no man can survive, he's the man for the job. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Commando.
Let's party.